Hello, Your Honor. Welcome to Ironwood Maximum Security. I've been waiting a long time for you.
Marcus Ghost Williams stood perfectly still in the doorway of cell block D7, staring at the man sitting on the bottom bunk. 23 years. 23 years Marcus had waited for this moment, dreaming of it, planning it, letting the rage feed him through every day of his life sentence. And now, here was Judge Richard Harmon, dressed in the same orange jumpsuit as everyone else, his silver hair still perfectly styled despite being processed just hours ago, his hands shaking as he realized who was standing in the doorway. "Hello, Your Honor," Marcus said softly, and the title dripped with venom. "Welcome to Ironwood Maximum Security. I've been waiting a long time for you." Judge Harmon's face went white. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Around them, the cell block had gone silent. 50 inmates watched through their bars, understanding immediately what was happening. The most powerful gang leader in Ironwood had just come face to face with the judge who'd sentenced him to die in prison. And everyone knew what came next. Marcus stepped into the cell, and the door clanged shut behind him. Judge Harmon pressed his back against the wall, nowhere left to run. Outside, guards walked past, oblivious. They had no idea they'd just locked a sheep in with a wolf. "Please," Judge Harmon whispered. "Please, 23 years ago," Marcus interrupted, his voice deadly calm. "You looked down at me from your bench, and you said, 'Life without parole.' You remember that? You remember me?" The judge's eyes were wide with terror. I sentenced hundreds of people. I can't remember every." "You should remember me, because I told you I was innocent. I begged you to look at the evidence again. My public defender was drunk during half my trial. The witnesses lied. The cops planted evidence, and you knew it. You knew it, and you sentenced me anyway. I was following the jury's verdict. You were following orders from the district attorney who was running for governor. You were playing politics with my life." Marcus's calm shattered, his voice rising. "I was 19 years old. I had a scholarship to college. I had a future, and you took it all away for a murder I didn't commit. If this story has gripped you, subscribe to Behind Bars Tales for more powerful true stories from inside America's prison system. Hit that subscribe button now and tell us where you are watching from." Judge Richard Harmon had been respected for 35 years, sending thousands to prison. But he was corrupt, taking bribes, fixing verdicts for private prison profits. When exposed, he was sentenced to 25 years and sent to Ironwood Maximum Security in West Texas, the same prison where Marcus Ghost Williams ruled as leader of the East Side Crew. Marcus had been 19 when wrongfully convicted of murdering a convenience store clerk. The witnesses were paid to lie, the evidence contaminated, but appeals failed, and Marcus spent 23 years learning to survive, then dominate. He became a legend, smart, strategic, and powerful. Every single day, he'd remembered Judge Harmon's face pronouncing that sentence. Every day, he'd burned with the injustice. Now the universe had delivered that judge directly into his hands. "You're going to kill me," Judge Harmon said, and it wasn't a question. His voice had steadied slightly, accepting his fate. "That's why you're here, to kill me." Marcus studied him. The judge had aged. He was 68 now, his face lined with the weight of decades on the bench. But he still carried that air of authority, that sense of being above others, even here in a prison cell. "I've thought about killing you every day for 23 years, Marcus said. "I've imagined it 1,000 different ways. Quick, slow, painful, every possible variation. And now here you are, and I finally have the chance." "So do it," the judge said, lifting his chin. "I know how this works. I sentenced enough men to know what happens to people like me in here. Just make it quick." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Make it quick? Like you made my life quick? Like you made my mother's suffering quick when she died believing her son was a murderer? Like you made it quick for all the families you destroyed with your corrupt rulings? I know what I did was wrong." "Wrong?" Marcus stepped closer. "Wrong is stealing. Wrong is lying. What you did was evil. You sold justice. You traded people's lives for money. Do you have any idea how many innocent people you sent to prison? How many families you destroyed? How many lives you ruined?" The judge's composure cracked. Tears formed in his eyes. "More than I can count. More than I can ever make right." "That's the truest thing you've ever said." They stared at each other in the small cell. Outside, inmates were whispering, speculating about what was happening. Guards would do their count soon, but until then, Marcus and the judge were alone with 23 years of rage between them. "I used to pray you'd end up in here," Marcus said quietly. "I used to pray that somehow, some way, you'd experience what you'd done to others. That you'd feel the fear, the helplessness, the absolute devastation of having your freedom stripped away. And now you're here, and you know what I realize? What? Killing you would be too easy, too quick. You deserve to feel every single day of what you sentenced me to. You deserve to wake up every morning in a cell, knowing you'll die in here. You deserve to feel the walls closing in, the endless monotony, the slow death of hope. Death would be mercy, and you don't deserve mercy." Judge Harmon sank onto the bunk, his legs giving out. "Then what do you want?" "I want you to understand," Marcus said. "I want you to truly understand what you did." Over the next weeks, Marcus made Judge Harmon's life hell, but not through violence. Instead, he protected him, declaring the judge his property. No one could touch him without Marcus's permission. The judge was isolated, protected, and completely at Marcus's mercy. Every day, Marcus visited his cell and told him a story. "David Martinez. You sentenced him to 15 years for drug possession," Marcus said on the third day. His disabled sister's 3 kids went into foster care. They were separated. The youngest, Maria, was abused for 4 years. She's a drug addict now on the streets. David found out and hanged himself. That's on you. The judge sat silently, ashen. "Tomorrow, Christina Thompson. Then James Wu. Sandra Johnson. I'm going to tell you about every person whose life you destroyed, and you're going to listen to every word." Day after day, Marcus told stories, inmates he'd met, cases he'd researched. Each story was a weight on the judge's conscience. Each name was another ghost haunting his cell. The judge stopped eating, couldn't sleep, lost weight. Guards offered psychiatric help, but he refused. As Marcus told these stories, something inside him shifted. He'd spent 23 years consumed by rage, but now, speaking these names aloud, he felt grief. For all the wasted years, for his mother who died thinking he was guilty, for the young man he'd been, and grief, surprisingly, for Judge Harmon himself. 6 weeks in, Judge Harmon attempted suicide. A guard found him with a makeshift noose, cut him down in time. He was placed on suicide watch. Marcus heard about it and felt nothing. No satisfaction, just emptiness. That night, Marcus realized how hollow rage had made him. 23 years in prison. He was 42, and he'd spent more than half his life in a cage. All he had was rage. The next day, Marcus requested a visit with the judge in medical. "Why did you try to kill yourself?" Marcus asked. "Because I can't live with what I've done," the judge said. "Every name you told me haunts me. I see their faces. I destroyed so many lives, and I can't undo any of it." "No, you can't. So why shouldn't I end it?" Marcus was quiet. Then, "Because easy endings are for cowards. I am a coward. I took bribes because I was afraid of losing my position. I sent innocent people to prison because I was afraid of standing up to prosecutors. Everything I did was because I was afraid." "Then stop being afraid now. Face it. Live with it. That's real punishment. That's real justice. I don't know how." "You start by understanding something," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "You ruined my life, stole 23 years from me, killed my mother with grief, and I hate you for that. I will always hate you for that." He paused. "But I'm tired, so goddamn tired of carrying this rage. It's eating me alive, and I realize now that killing you doesn't give me back what I lost. All it does is add more darkness to a world that already has too much." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna torture you anymore. I'm gonna leave you alone." "Why?" "Because I need to let go. Not for you, for me. Because holding on to this hate is killing me. And I don't want to die in here. Not physically and not spiritually." "You're forgiving me?" "No, I'm not forgiving you. What you did is unforgivable. But I'm choosing to stop letting it control my life. There's a difference. I don't understand. You don't have to. Just know this. You're going to serve your sentence. You're going to carry those names, those stories, for the rest of your life. That's your punishment. And if you survive it, maybe you can use what's left of your life to do something good." Marcus stood to leave. Judge Harmon called after him. "Why? After everything I did to you, why are you showing me this mercy?" Marcus looked back. Because a wise man once told me that becoming a monster to punish a monster just creates more monsters, and I'm tired of being one. 3 months later, Judge Richard Harmon started Justice Restored, a program helping inmates navigate appeals and connect with innocence projects. He used his legal expertise to review cases, identify errors, and coach inmates on fighting for freedom. 2 inmates had their convictions overturned in the first year. 5 more had sentences reduced. Dozens filed new appeals. Marcus watched from a distance. He didn't participate. His appeals were exhausted, but he saw what the judge was doing. Despite everything, he felt something that might have been respect. One day the judge approached Marcus in the library. They hadn't spoken in 6 months. "I've been reviewing your case," the judge said quietly. "The trial records, the evidence, everything." Marcus's heart jumped. "Why?" "Because you were right. The evidence was contaminated. The witnesses were paid. Your defense was incompetent. You never should have been convicted." His voice broke. "I knew it even then. I had doubts, but I ignored them because convicting you was politically convenient. And I've spent every day since wishing I could change that decision." "But you can't." "No, but I can help you now. I've contacted the Texas Innocence Project. They're willing to take your case. The DNA evidence was never properly tested. With modern techniques, we might prove you weren't there." Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 23 years. Hope. It was terrifying. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And because you showed me mercy when you could have destroyed me. You gave me a reason to keep living. The least I can do is try to give you back your life." Over the next year, Judge Harmon worked tirelessly. He coordinated with lawyers, tracked down evidence, interviewed witnesses. The DNA testing came back. It excluded Marcus. The clerk had been killed by someone else, a known gang member serving life in another state. Marcus Williams was innocent. After 23 years, the truth was proven. The day Marcus walked out of Ironwood, Judge Richard Harmon stood at the library window watching. The judge wouldn't be released for another 18 years, but he stood there, watching Marcus walk through the gates into freedom. Marcus paused and looked back. He saw the judge watching, and for a moment their eyes met across the yard. Marcus raised his hand in a brief wave. Not forgiveness, not friendship, but acknowledgement. Judge Harmon waved back, tears streaming down his face. 5 years later, Marcus Williams had rebuilt his life. He'd gone to college, earned a degree in criminal justice, and was working for the Texas Innocence Project, helping other wrongfully convicted people fight for freedom. He visited his mother's grave weekly, telling her about his work, about the people he was helping. And once a month he visited Ironwood. He'd meet with Judge Richard Harmon in the library, and they'd work together on cases. The former gang leader and the corrupt judge united in their quest to fix a broken system. It wasn't forgiveness. Marcus still carried the pain of what had been done to him, still felt rage about the 23 years he'd lost. But he'd learned that healing doesn't require forgiveness. It requires letting go of the need for revenge. It requires choosing to build something new instead of remaining trapped in the past. During one meeting, Marcus asked, "Do you think you've achieved redemption?" Judge Harmon shook his head. "No, I destroyed too many lives. The good I'm doing now doesn't erase the evil I did then." "Then why keep doing it?" "Because I have to try. I can't change the past, but maybe I can change someone's future. And if I help even one person get justice that I denied them, maybe my life wasn't completely worthless." "You helped me get justice. That counts for something." "Does it?" "It counts for everything," Marcus said. "Because of you, I'm free. I have a life, and together we're helping others get the same chance. That's not redemption, maybe, but it's something." Judge Harmon smiled, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen in years. "It's something," he agreed. Years later, when Judge Richard Harmon was finally released, 89 years old and frail, Marcus was waiting outside the gates. "I didn't expect anyone to be here," the judge said. "I wanted to be the first person you saw when you walked out, just like you were the first person I saw when you walked in. Full circle. Something like that." They stood together, 2 men whose lives had been irrevocably intertwined by justice and injustice, by crime and punishment, by rage and redemption. "What will you do now?" Marcus asked. "I don't know. I'm almost 90. I have no family, no home, no career. You could work with me, Marcus said. The Innocence Project needs experienced lawyers, even disbarred ones. You could keep doing what you've been doing. After everything I did to you, you'd still work with me? It's not forgiveness. I'll never forget what you did. But I've learned that people are more than the worst thing they've ever done. You were a corrupt judge who destroyed lives, but you're also a man who spent 2 decades trying to make it right. Both things are true. Can you live with that contradiction? Marcus smiled. I've learned to live with a lot of contradictions. One more won't kill me. They walked to Marcus's car together, the former inmate and the former judge, both freed from their prisons, one made of concrete and steel, the other made of guilt and regret. Do you think justice was served? Judge Harmon asked. I served 21 years. You served 23 for a crime you didn't commit. Is any of that justice? Marcus thought about it. I don't think justice is a destination. I think it's something you keep working toward, knowing you'll never fully achieve it. You served time for your crimes. I was exonerated for mine, and now we're both working to help others. That's as close to justice as we're going to get. It doesn't seem like enough. It never is. Marcus agreed. But it's what we have, and we can either drown in what's unfair, or we can do what we can with what we've got. I choose the latter. Judge Harmon looked out at the world he hadn't seen in over 2 decades. Thank you. For what? For showing me that change is possible. For believing I could be more than my worst mistakes. For giving me a purpose when I thought my life was over. Marcus nodded. You gave me my freedom back. That makes us even. But they both knew that wasn't true. The scales of justice would never be perfectly balanced. Marcus had lost 23 years he could never recover. Judge Harmon had destroyed countless lives he could never restore. But they were also both still here, still fighting, still trying to make something good from something terrible. And maybe, Marcus thought as they drove toward the sunset, maybe that was the only kind of redemption any of them would ever find. Thank you for watching this powerful story from Behind Bars Tales. If this story of impossible justice and unexpected transformation moved you, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Share this with someone who needs to understand that people are more than their worst mistakes, and that even in the darkest circumstances, change is possible. Subscribe now for more true stories of redemption, justice, and the complex reality of life inside America's prison system. Because sometimes the greatest justice comes not from revenge, but from the courage to help others find what was taken from you.